What up guys, me, Meto Otaku Gamer here, and in my last video I talked about 10 awesome JRPGs, well, action RPGs for the PlayStation Vita, and now I'm following up with turn-based RPGs. Now, I'm also including tactical / strategy role-playing games on the PlayStation Vita in this video, as well as traditional turn-based RPGs like Persona 4 Golden, Digimon Story, Cyber Sleuth, Final Fantasy X, X-2. Those games you'll see here in this video, and these are games that I really would highly recommend getting for Vita collectors like myself. I am absolutely in love with the PlayStation Vita, and there are some series that made a presence on the PlayStation Vita that I am now finally discovering and really enjoying, and I can't wait to share that with you guys today in this video. And I feel like the PlayStation Vita has some of the best JRPGs, next to the PlayStation 2, of course, as that is my favorite console of all time. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, let me know in the comment section below if there's any RPGs that I left out of this video, as well as my last video where I was covering action RPGs, and so that way I could be on the lookout for those. If there's ones in my collection that I don't have, I'm looking for getting every single PlayStation Vita RPG. So let's dive in to the Vita yet again and talk about 10 awesome turn-based RPGs. So starting off with number 10, have a tactical role-playing game from Spike Chunsoft and NIS America, that being Grand Kingdom, which is set on the continent of Resinil, originally dominated by the Olding Empire. The Empire's collapse 100 years before led to the creation of 4 nations now in a constant state of war. The nations are Landurf, rich in natural resources and led by Queen Gladius Ringland; Valkyr, a land dominated by a tribal warrior culture led by their strongest warrior, Graham Berngard; Thiel, a forest-bound nation for those displaced by and tired of war, protected by Queen Priscilla Teller; and Madion, led by Julius Wiseman, a barren land whose people are the most powerful magicians in the continent, and due to the constant battles between the nations, mercenaries have become a necessity for leading and forming armies, with mercenary bands organized by the Independent Guild. And like I said, it is a tactical role-playing game, kind of akin to, like, I don't know, like Fire Emblem. And another tactical role-playing game got here is God Wars Future Past, which is also available on PS4, where it goes all the way back to the roots of Japan's mythic past by using characters and elements from Japan's oldest remaining historical chronicle, as well as the chronicles of Shaka, which is Japan's take on Buddha. The story is set in the land of Mizuho, which is divided into the kingdoms of Fuji, Izumo, and Hyuga, and ruled by the 3 greats, Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo. 13 years prior to the game, Tsukuyomi sacrificed one of her daughters, Sakuya, to the volcano to bring peace and a period of calm to the world. Back to the present where the game is set, the world is in chaos again, and Tsukuyomi, the queen of the Fuji nation, goes missing. And you take place in tactical turn-based battles, and the whole story is basically centered around Japan's mythology, and it's really cool. I haven't played too much of it, but what I have played of it, I have really enjoyed so far. And next up, another tactical role-playing game, and this is in the much beloved, super highly popular, and super wacky series of Disgaea. And this is probably one of the very first times I've ever really mentioned Disgaea on my channel. Disgaea 3, Absence of Detention, and as it is known on the PlayStation Vita, takes place in the Netherworld school called the Evil Academy, and in this demon school, a good student is one who engages in evil activities such as truancy, never showing up to class and getting in fights with others. The student who participates the most in these kinds of activities is known as the honor student, while demons who are admirable by human standards are known as delinquents. So it's kind of like everything's reversed. If you're doing bad, then you're considered a good guy, and if you're doing good stuff, then you're considered a bad guy. And the main character of this game is Mal, who is son of the Netherworld's overlord, has not once attended class since the beginning of school, and his ambition is to overthrow his father and claim his title. He also wants to become a hero. And just like in typical Disgaea fashion, tactical turn-based role-playing battles where you can dish out crazy amounts of damage and do wicked combos and have different party members that you can equip different weapons to and be able to level up to extreme levels way past like typical level caps in most games. That is Disgaea 3. So this next one is a Japanese import that's also available on the 3DS, and I'm going to butcher the name like crazy. I think it's called Exstetra. It's really bizarre how to pronounce it, but it's considered a traditional role-playing game in the vein of the Tales series, except with turn-based battle system. Characters are able to transfer energy between one another via kissing. EXS energy is obtained by defeating monsters and is used towards special techniques. And the story is centered around the main character named Ryoma, who has the ability to kiss and in effect absorb energy from enemies and use that energy to create miracles. The game's setting has been described as a combination of an overworldly fantasy land that has been abruptly fused with modern-day Tokyo, and the game is depicting repercussions of such event. And this is a game by Furyu, for those who don't know. And next up, got a game from Compile Heart and Idea Factory, and this is one series that I've been wanting to get into for a long time. It is kind of a remake of the very first Hyperdimension Neptunia. This is Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1, the first in the Rebirth trilogy, which remakes the first few games from the Neptunia series. And for those who don't know about Neptunia, it's essentially the console wars personified as cute anime girls fighting each other. There's 4 goddesses: Neptune, also known as Purple Heart, and the leader of Planeptune. You also have Vert, also known as Green Heart, Blanc, White Heart, and Noir, known as Black Heart, and they are the goddesses of Leanbox, PlayStation, and as Louis. So basically like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and a failed Sega, or I think a fictional Sega. Basically Neptune is like representing a Sega console that was like a concept, and it is very wacky and crazy. And then next up, had to include a Final Fantasy game. There's not a whole lot of Final Fantasy on the PlayStation Vita, and I gotta go with one of the best, turn-based Final Fantasy games that I've played, and that being Final Fantasy X. Now, you do have 10, 10-2 HD Remaster on the Vita, but I'm talking about 10, because 10-2 is a complete crapshoot. Now, with 10, you play as Tidus, who is basically been whisked away from the land of the city of Zanarkand and winds up in the land of Spira that is being ravaged by this ginormous chaotic creature named Sin, and you follow him as he teams up with Yuna and others as Yuna is going on a pilgrimage to find a way to stop Sin for good. And then 10-2 is kind of a follow-up. You get both of the games, but honestly, go with 10. It has a really great battle system. You could swap out party members on the fly. You also have the sphere grid that allows you to upgrade your characters, and you can't go wrong with Final Fantasy X. And then next up, have a game that is from Tri-Ace as well as Axis Games, that being Exist Archive. This essentially is a spiritual successor to the Valkyrie Profile series. It's a side-scrolling sci-fi RPG with turn-based battles, similar to the Valkyrie Profile series. So if you know about Valkyrie Profile, then it has a very similar battle system. Except for this time, the characters are in this like weird sci-fi world, and they're trying to figure out exactly what it is that they need to do here in order to return back to their home, and they awaken powers within them that they use to fight off against the enemies. And then there's also a mysterious girl. It's very tropey in regards to other like JRPG tropes and anime tropes. But honestly, this is a really fun game. I love Tri-Ace. They're one of my favorite developers. Can't go wrong with Exist Archive. Then, next up, got one of my, well, I'm not going to say favorite, because I haven't played a whole lot of it, but this is connected to one of my favorite turn-based RPG series, that being Artanelico, and this is nosurge, part of the Surge Concerto series that is kind of loosely connected to Artanelico. It's made by the same people, but published by Koei Tecmo instead of NIS America, and it was developed by Gus, and it's a turn-based RPG heavy on sci-fi, and it has similar gameplay elements to that of Artanelico. You do have like a Cosmosphere type ordeal where you could dive into certain female characters, but it's instead of it being called the Cosmosphere, it's now called the Soulscape, and you get to form Geometrics, which is sun magic that you can use in combat, and you can also take on every single enemy in a dungeon all at once if you want to, so that way you don't have to deal with random enemy encounters. And the story is kind of confusing, hence why I'm not really touching too much on it. I may dive more into it in a future video. But I will say nosurge is definitely worth finding a way to play it on the Vita, if you can. And then, next up, I wanted to save one of my favorites, kind of second to last, and this is Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. And my best way to describe this is, it has a very similar kind of combat system to Pokemon in a sense, but this is not Pokemon, this is Digimon. And you play as a character who enters the digital world, and you are trying to like solve this mystery, and you get yourself involved with hackers and all sorts of other crazy characters, and you meet up with Digimon and fight in turn-based battles that kind of has like a rock, paper, scissors type ordeal, kind of similar in Pokemon. Certain Digimon are strong against others and vice versa and all that. And Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, as well as the follow-up, which is called Hacker's Memory, has hundreds of hours of content to explore. These are wild and crazy games, and there's also a new one coming out, Digimon Story Time Stranger, that I can't wait for. I am really digging the Digimon series as a whole, really falling in love with it. So I really had to recommend at least one of the 2 Digimon games that came out on the Vita. And then last, but certainly not least, gotta go with a fan favorite. This is Persona 4 Golden, which is set in a rural city of Inaba, and you play as a new student who, in the anime, he's known as Yu Narukami. That's what I know him as. You can name him whatever. And you team up with characters like Yosuke Hanamura, Chie Satonaka, Naoto Shirogane, Rise, Teddy, Kanji, Tatsumi, and there's also a new character named Marie, who I still don't really know what her purpose is in the game, but Persona 4 has you going into the TV world to find out who is causing all these murders in the town of Inaba, and fight against the shadows, as well as rescuing your friends and unlocking their personas that you are able to level up and get stronger. And it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love Persona 4 Gold. Well, thank you guys. That is 10 great, amazing turn-based RPGs that you can find on the PlayStation Vita, which I gotta say is becoming my favorite handheld of all time. This is the Vita that I'm rocking with. And I feel like following this up with another video where I am talking about RPGs, primarily PS1 RPGs that I have available for me to play on my Vita. I have a mix of action and turn-based RPGs from the PS1 era, and that's an era that I rarely cover on my channel, so who knows, I might do a future video covering some PlayStation classics that you can play on the Vita. Primarily RPGs, since that's my favorite genre. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am Mecha Otaku Gamer. See you guys in the next one. Peace.